Your daily dough. Home baking without the hassle.
Alright guys, welcome to Your Daily Dough Sourdough Loaf instructional video. My name's Chris, one of the co-founders of YDD, and today I'm going to show you how to turn this bag of dough into a beautiful bake. All you're going to need is a pair of scissors, a spatula, a tea towel, a bowl, some flour, and the greaseproof paper that came with your pack. Once you've washed your hands, we're ready to get baking. So the dough is good to go. All we're gonna do is get it out of the pack and then we're ready to shape. So we're gonna take our scissors and we're gonna cut across the top of the pack. And then we're going to cut across the top part of the packaging, across the side, all the way along the bottom. Don't worry about cutting the dough, it's absolutely fine. And then down the top section. So now the fun bit, we're going to take our spatula and we're going to get the dough out of the pack. Now there isn't really a right or wrong way of doing this. We literally just need to scrape the dough off the top of the film that you've cut. Again, don't worry if it sticks. We just need to keep going until it all comes off. And then we're going to use our spatula to get under the dough and we're going to pull this onto our surface. So again, there isn't really a right or wrong way to do this. We just need to get it onto the surface, and once it's there, that's job done. Cool, so now we're going to shape and fold our dough before we prove it. And for that, we're going to need a bit of flour and a spatula. So we just need a light dusting of flour on our work surface. And then using the spatula, we're going to lift off our dough and put it on top of the flour. Then we're going to do a little bit of shaping. So if we pull our dough out, just to give it a little bit more surface area, then we're going to do a couple of folds before we shape it into the traditional sourdough loaf shape. So grab the top and fold it into the middle and push down with your fingers. And then take the bottom and lift that over the top and again push down with your fingers. Then we're going to take the dough, turn it so that it's facing outwards, and then we're going to simply pull and roll this down as we tuck it over. So pull and tuck, pat it down. If you need more flour because your fingers are sticking, just grab some, pull and tuck, pull and tuck. So now we're going to do our final bit of shaping. We're going to need a little bit more flour on the surface to make sure the dough doesn't stick, and quite a lot on your hands. And now we're going to simply use the palms of our hands to cup and rotate the dough. And we're trying to add as much tension as possible and get it into a nice bowl shape. So if we just work around the dough, and again, take your time. It doesn't matter how quickly you do this. We just need to keep going until the dough is in a nice, even, round shape. And if you pat the dough, you'll feel it's quite tight, and that's exactly what we want for when it goes into the bowl for proving. Right, so now we're ready to transfer our dough into our bowl for proving. We need our YDD greaseproof paper, scrunch it up, and use this to line the bowl so we can stop our dough from sticking when it's proving. Take a bit of flour, spread that around the greaseproof paper, and then what's really important is that this is the top of our bread, so we need to make sure that that goes into the bowl first. So we're going to simply lift this into the bowl. Now if you need your spatula, you can get underneath, or if it's quite loose on the counter, you can just flip it over, place that in the bowl, and then the last thing to do is grab some more flour and just go around the edges and drop that in so that when the dough rises, it doesn't stick. Now we're going to let the bread gods work their magic. We're going to prove this for about 5 to 6 hours. So all we need to do is grab a tea towel, put it over the top, and we're going to come back in a couple of hours to check on its progress. So our dough's been proving for a couple of hours, and as you can see, it's starting to grow in size. That's exactly what we want. We're going to check back on that in another couple of hours, and then hopefully we're ready to start baking. The dough's been proving for another 2 hours, and as you can see, it's doubled in size, and when you press down, it springs back. So we know we're ready to bake. We need to now preheat our oven to 240 degrees for a fan assisted and 250 for a normal oven. We're going to cook the bread using a technique called a Dutch oven. So we're going to take a metal pan and place this over the bread, which will create extra heat to allow it to rise even more. And we need to put this pan into the oven to also get hot. So now our oven has come to temperature. We need to be really careful for this part. We're going to take out the baking tray and the pan and place it on our hob. Now we're ready to prep our dough for cooking. So we're going to flip this over onto our board, and we're simply going to remove the baking paper. Now don't worry if it sticks. We just need to work around gently peeling it off. Just got to be patient. Just work our way all around the dough. The more flour we use when we put the dough into the bowl, the less this will stick. The grease proof, we're going to flatten out, and we're going to transfer our dough onto here. We're then going to take our scissors and make some cuts, which is going to allow the bread to rise even more in the oven. And then we're going to transfer the dough using the grease-proof paper onto our baking tray. Now remember, it's very hot, so be careful. So, taking our spatula, let's have one more little shape. And then under the dough, onto the grease proof, and even here we can just make sure it's looking nice and uniform. We're going to make 4 cuts, quite deep, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to lift this onto the tray. Then we're going to take our oven gloves. We're going to place over the very hot pan, so make sure you're careful, onto the dough. And then that goes into the oven for 30 minutes. So now we get to the good bit. The bread's been in for 30 minutes. We're going to take it out, remove the pan, and then put it back in for about 15 to 20 minutes to brown off. Yes, that's exactly what we want. As you can see, we've got a nice even rise, a beautiful layer. So 15 to 20 minutes back in the oven, and it's done. And the final thing we need to do is reduce the oven temperature by 30 degrees. If you're cooking without a pan, then keep the oven at 200 degrees for a fan assisted, 210 for a standard oven. Cool, so now we're ready to take the bread out of the oven. Wow, that extra 15 to 20 minutes has really paid off. As you can see, we've got a beautiful risen sourdough loaf. So we need to transfer this onto our wire rack and allow this to cool for about an hour. It'll continue to cook, and then we can cut into it. The second best part of baking bread is the smell in your house. The first part is the eating.
Your daily dough. Home baking without the hassle.